Hello and welcome to Click4Assistance web chat tutorials. In this video we're going to be looking at advanced customization and branding and how you can adjust the chat buttons and the chat windows to fit into your website and cater for the needs of your business. Before we dive in how that's achieved, we're going to take a look at some of our customer examples and what they've done with the solution. So the first customer, they're looking at adding 3 chat buttons to their website. They've got one in the header, they've got one in the content, and they've got the standard sticky button. This can be implemented across all of your pages or just a select few. Another customer, we're looking at the branding. So they've branded it up with their color scheme, they've put their logo in there, they've added this nice icon to make it fit again with their website. Moving on to another customer, they're using a pop-up window, so they get a bit more real estate in terms of the size of the window. What's interesting, they've put a photograph of the agent in the right hand side. This allows you to upload photos of all of your agents, and when the visitor starts to chat they can see the actual person they're speaking to. Much more personal experience. This customer, they've got a couple of different pre-chat forms that they use in different areas of their website. One takes first name, last name, date of birth and email address, where this one collects the first name, last name, but also has got option boxes, so the visitor can choose, in this case, what application they're looking to study, and also whether they're an undergraduate or postgraduate study. This gets pushed through to the agent so they can see the selections, and the chat can continue accordingly. This customer, on their pre-chat form, they've put an information message relating to their data protection. They've got a link to their data protection policy. They're even asking the visitor to agree with that data protection policy before a chat started. Finally, we're looking at the surveys here. So when the chat has ended, they're asking survey information using radio buttons, combo boxes, allowing them to leave any comments they have. This then gets emailed to a certain email address within your organization, and you can see how satisfied the customer service and the quality of that is done. This is the first survey that appears. When that feedback's submitted, the second survey appears, and now we're looking at responsiveness, knowledge, professionalism, so sort of key metrics to do with your agent. So these are the sort of things that can be achieved within the Click4Assistance software. You can do this yourself if you've got knowledge with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or we do offer professional services where we can customize and configure these forms for you. So now we're going to look at how that's done. Okay, so let's log into the software and see how we can customize these chat windows. So we're going to go to Tools, Chat, and we're looking at one of the chat experiences with the relevant forms. In this video we're going to show you how to customize the pre-chat window, but obviously all of the windows can be customized. We would strongly recommend that you do have experience in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and also are aware of responsive designs, because these windows are going to be displayed on both mobile, tablets, PCs. So all of that needs to be taken into account. Also accessibility and color schemes. So you do really need to have some knowledge when you're getting into this level of advanced customization. We do offer the service to do it, as previously said, so contact our support team and we can configure them accordingly. So first, let's take a look at the pre-chat form. What we're going to do here is we're going to start off with one of our standard templates, and then we're going to go advanced, and rather than adjusting the template, which can be done, we're going to create a new one so we can play around with it, and if it doesn't quite work out, we've still got the stock windows and forms to start again with. So at this point we're going to create a new one based, we call it custom 1, and we're going to copy this name only pre-chat form. Now as you can see, there's sections up here. The first one is the name of the form, the window size. The second is the actual HTML that's used to design this form. The CSS relates to the style, so we've got a CSS sheet in here that's used across all of the forms, and then we can preview what changes we make in real time. So jumping back to the HTML, as you can see, Our standard templates include tags such as viewpoint, so this ensures that it remains static within mobile devices. We use Font Awesome for icons. We use Google API, so we can use web fonts to determine the fonts that we're going to be using. Modernizer, so it works across various browsers and devices, and then jQuery, which is used for validation, placeholder or watermarks within the text boxes and areas, and then our own library that gives the functionality to the chat window. At the top, we've got a couple of functions. These are required. These are part of the code. This function here, custom load, is called when the page loads. So you can put your own custom code in here to pre-populate text boxes or do anything really in JavaScript when that form loads. The second function is called C4A validate and submit. So when the visitor clicks on the submit button and you want to do some validation, this is where you can put your custom code in here to validate what's been entered. So moving down, this is the HTML. We've got a title bar, which is the header at the top of the form. We've got a main section, where in this case, it includes a text box just to take the name. And we've also got a button, the submit button down there. And then at the very bottom, we've got the footer section. So what we're going to do is simply add another control. As you can see, we're just taking the name of the visitor, but you may want to take, for instance, their email address. So this is how we add another control. We've put it in a div tag, we've given it a label, so it's email, an input type email, give it a name, use this placeholder, so we've got a watermark now, prompting the person to put in their email address. We've got some data validation, we've got the validation message to ensure that a valid email is put in, and then we use regex to define the pattern for that email address. And then down here we've got a span, which is basically a label to display any validation messages. So if we have a quick look in the preview, now we've got an email box here, so we can put a name in there as Stan. If we leave the email empty, it prompts us that we need to put one in. If we put an invalid email in there, again it prompts us that a valid email address needs to be entered. If we put a correct one in now, so me@company.com, this will now say that the form will submit, and we can show the data that was pushed through. So we're pushing through the name and the email address. The agents will see this information in the dashboard. So that's how we add a simple text box. We've got another one here for a select box or drop down box. So again, we're using a div as a container. Now we're asking which product the visitor wishes to talk about, chat about. We've created a select or an option box with a number of options within it. Now we've put a please select option in there with no value, and that allows us to do some validation. So we ensure that they select one of the options. And then again, we've got a span that we're going to use as a label to display any error messages. So we'll go back to the preview. And now when we click on it, we're being forced to choose a selection. Obviously, the same validation occurs for the name. So we would go Stan, and then if we provided my name at company.com, again, the chat gets started, and now we're pushing through three pieces of information: the name, the email, and which product. So that's how you add controls to the forms. It's down to you. You can use checkboxes, text areas. Basically, each of these forms are like a mini web page, so you can do anything you like. Anything you can do on a web page, you can do within these forms. There are some restraints to what needs to be on that form. For example, you need a submit button. Without a submit button, it wouldn't work. So you can validate the HTML and it gives us some warnings or errors if it's not valid HTML. So if I put a button in there and I call it submit or a wrong name, it will validate. Another thing you can do is Google Analytics. As I say, this is like a normal web page, which allows you to put a piece of script into here, and this is Google Analytics code. So when somebody opens the pre-chat form or the dialogue form or the offline form, it will send a signal to Google Analytics, so you can track their metrics within that sort of platform. You may integrate with CRM systems, sales order processing systems, anywhere where you can integrate from your web pages or your website into these third-party systems. You can do exactly the same within Click4Assistance. We will take that out. So once you've previewed it and you're happy the form works as expected, you would then save the form. All of the changes are saved. We can now see our custom form that will be used on the pre-chat. So potentially, if we go to our website, because we're logged in, we get this new pre-chat form. So everything can be configured within the software, nothing to change on your website. You can have multiple forms in different areas of your site asking for different information. In the same way that we customize the pre-chat form, you would do the offline form, you can do your surveys, you can do the dialogue as well. So that concludes this video. You will need knowledge of HTML, CSS to get the most out of it, but it does give you that complete flexibility, like no other solution really, to be able to collect information and brand the chat windows accordingly. It makes it look like it's part of your website rather than a bolt-on tool, and more people are willing to start chats with that in mind. So finally, thanks very much for watching. We have a number of YouTube videos. If you've got any questions, then do feel free to email support@click4assistance.co.uk. Subscribe to our channel, and if you liked the video and it was useful, please give us a like. Thanks very much for your time. Bye bye.